growing up an only child, you can imagine I was raised pretty close to the vest under my parents' wing. When I went away to college to Philadelphia, my parents sold the house, packed it all up right in the middle of Hurricane Andrew, and came with me to Philadelphia. 2 years into my closely monitored academia, my father had a mild health crisis, and we all moved back to Florida so that he could recover. Now, I was called upon to toe the line for the family finances, and by no means was that bittersweet for me. I couldn't have asked for anything better, not for my father, but for me. See, I was born an entrepreneur's daughter. My father had sales figures running through his veins, and you could pluck creativity from my mother like apples from a tree. So when I was called on to enter the corporate world, I was ready. I knew what it took to service a customer. I knew what it meant to be timely. I knew what it meant to be reliable and trustworthy. See, but it wasn't always that way. I took a lot of beatings, not from my parents, from the kids at school. Because the more that my parents pushed for me to stand out and rise up, the lonelier it got up there. I remember clearly one day sitting on the couch and saying to my mother, when I have a child, I'm never going to push them to be different. It's too hard. The abuse and the pain is just not worth it. So the first day of that job finally arrived. And I was prepared like every good corporate girl in my good corporate dress, wearing my black pleather skirt and my cow printed shirt, and my hair was coiffed in a banana clip. It was the early 90s, remember. And there I sat in my very own desk, in my very own space, for the very first time. I was 20. It might as well have been the Oval Office for me, return desk. And as I waited for my boss to come down the hallway, he delivered the order of the morning. He handed me a floppy disk and a contract that he had red-penned. And he said to me, make these changes and give it back to me. Now, my entrepreneurial father trained me in computing on his laptop. It was about this big, and it was pasty beige, so heavy I couldn't even carry it. It had a tiny little screen that flipped up, and it lit up bright green. So I amassed my computing skills right then and there on Lotus 123. So of course, first day of the job, I call the only tech support I had relied on, 1-800-CALL-DAD, right? And I was literally under the desk on the phone. Dad, I have a contract on a disk, but how do I get the disk in the computer? And he says to me, okay, there's probably a slot on the front of the computer. Stick the disk in the slot, turn the knob, lock it down. Dad, it's in. He says, okay, type C:\\. C:\\. Nothing. Dad, nothing happened. I said, Liz, is the computer screen green? I said, no, Dad, it's black. I said, Liz, the computer is off. I said, okay, how do I turn it on? He says, around the back, there should be a big toggle switch. So I feel around the back, sure enough, I flip the switch. Green glow, we had liftoff. C:\\. And there came raining down cryptic words and letters and numbers. It's all kind of fuzzy from there, but all I was concerned with was progress was being made. There was my document. I could change the contract, type over the words, and I could type in C:\\print, and out it came. I was so thrilled I had done my very best. But you see, I was only successful that day because my parents unknowingly taught me the invaluable art of self-promotion. I was only brave enough to send my resume to that job, and crazy enough to believe that I, at 20, could support my parents financially. You see, my daughter is now 5 years old, and every morning we start our day with our hands on heart, and we say, "You have the heart of a lion, and you will love yourself no matter what the world tells you." Because she will need the art of self-promotion again and again and again throughout her life. From the science fair, to the spelling bee, to the cheerleading squad, pick me, to the first day in her first job. Now, some of you here in this room, whether you're 14 or 68, still haven't mastered the art of self-promotion, and that's okay, because wherever you are in your timeline, tonight is a really good night to start. Because inside of you, there lives a message worth telling. It is your skill and your survival instinct that needs to be told. But I'm going to caution you. There is great risk in self-promotion. Because you see, the only thing that stands between you and everyone you look up to is self-promotion. The risks are that you may make an impact. You may help someone out of that toxic job. You may inspire someone out of their abusive relationship. You may make a difference in this world. So you can either rise up right now and tell the story that is authentically you, or you can step back into the shadow where no one sees and no one hears, and you can watch the world go by. Or you can step into the light and heal the world with your message. Now you're probably wondering to yourself, what is this story? What's my story? How do I tell my story? If you allow yourself to go back into your darkest time, your darkest hour, loss, death, heartbreak, financial ruin, bankruptcy, health crisis, your message comes from that mess. And it is your skill and your survival instinct that took you from that mess to your success. And no matter where you are, your story must be told. So tonight, I would ask that you infuse your story into every person you touch. Student, neighbor, friend, strangers, the world. It's a large, if not the only part of you that connects you to the rest of us. And tonight I'll also ask you, put your hand on heart and look in the mirror and say, you have the heart of a lion, and you will love yourself no matter what the world tells you.